Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. D. Oracle, your favorite psychic medium and metaphysician. Today, we are going to look at some of the ramifications of Roe versus Wade. And let's see what Spirit has to say about the future of Roe versus Wade and what we can look forward to as some of the root issues that will begin to develop because of the current decision that has been made, okay? So, I just wanted to invite you to click on that like and subscribe button if you enjoy the content of my channel. And we are just going to get started with opening up to Spirit so that we can kind of see what Spirit is saying that we can look forward to, okay? So, let me see. It is now 1:28 over here in Texas, Central Standard Time. So, our number for today is going to be 11 because I always open up the portal. I don't know, it's just this thing about time with me because I know that if everything was meant to be, and this is actually my job and I work for the universe, that moment in time has already been lived. It's already been created. It's already existing. So when I open up a portal at a specific time, to me, that represents an appointment between me and Spirit to give insight and information for better reasoning and judgment. So I'm just going to say a prayer to my spirit guides and open up. I give thanks to my spirit guides and I ask that you will be with me as I come to bring insight and information for better reasoning and judgment. And we ask that the universal mind will open up all channels to receive and relay that information with clarity. Let it be so, and so it is. All right, guys. So our number's 11. I hope you guys like my new deck too. Whoops, this is 11 here. We're starting with this card. Oh, shoot. Already that Two of Pentacles is coming out. But you guys are going to see it. I hope you like my new deck too. This is a really good deck. Uh-oh. Being on the high horse is coming out. The High Priestess is coming out. See that coming out in the place of the past. What does that mean? And then also we've got the Nine of Pentacles coming out inverted. This is how you know this is a divine appointment. As I break down each of the cards and start explaining what that means, you will understand why I am saying that. We have the Hierophant. You know, the Hierophant is a card of tradition, okay? Oh, the Eight of Wands. That is a card of moving too fast. I'm going to explain what that means as a root issue. Also, the Ace of Wands. This is a very sexual card. For me, it represents things of a very sexual nature. So I'm going to explain what that means. Those are the three root issues, guys, in my spread. The Ace of Cups coming out inverted in place of hopes and fears. All right, let me move this phone out the way a little bit. And then for the outcome card, we've got the King of Wands. Very interesting, very interesting. So let's talk about this spread because the first card that's coming out is the Two of Pentacles inverted. Two of Pentacles. Sometimes this card very much represents lack of choice, okay? You can't really have too many options, okay, with the Two of Pentacles coming out in the position of the present. It's saying, as of right now, choice has been revoked and been taken away. So you honestly have to rely on someone to provide some type of options or choices for you, okay? That's what Spirit is saying with that card in the place of the present position, okay? Which is very, very interesting because we know that's exactly what's happening. we're going to have to rely on our particular state governments to kind of oversee what options that women are going to have now, as far as if they become pregnant and they obviously want to terminate their pregnancy. And then we've got the Six of Wands coming up. This card is coming up in the place of the problem. This card always represents to me someone who is on their high horse, okay? So someone who's very much feeling like they have the power and the ability to really orchestrate other people's lives, okay? Or they have the power or ability to either bring someone up or let them down, okay? Sometimes this card represents being stood up too. And what I mean by stood up, anywhere from being stood up on a date to being stood up in the facet of someone leaves you hanging, kind of, sort of, okay? This card is also a card of leadership, okay? So the problem here, Spirit is saying, is leadership in a way that we generally vote or concede someone into office, or we have other people that we appoint over ourselves, and sometimes we trust them so much, right? We've given them so much power that they can make a decision over our lives that can affect the rest of our lives. So I think we need to look more closely at what we are asking and who we are asking to take on these leadership roles, and to kind of be on their high horse, okay, even when they shouldn't be, okay? So that's the problem. Spirit is saying that's the problem. So when we're looking at the way that we're doing things and how much corruption is now in our system, we can pretty much look at the Six of Wands, that thinking that we ultimately apply when we go along with the system, right? Even when there's a need for change to take place, and we're still doing things the same way. We're still going along with that leadership, right? Okay. So that's what Spirit's saying, that's in the place of the problem. As you can see too, these are some very shiny cards. I really kind of sort of like them. Now, this High Priestess is coming out. Guys, a lot of times the High Priestess represents intuition, right? But sometimes the High Priestess represents contracts, right? It represents going into a specific agreement with someone or someone. Maybe even the fact that, you could be opposites, but you're coming together to make an agreement, okay? So the High Priestess is all about contracts, right? And we just saw the leadership card come up, right? The card where people make decisions because they could. Well, we've gone into contracts with them. This card is in the place of the past. So over and over again, we continue to enter into contracts with these people, right? And we tend to find out that there are some times when that system isn't necessarily going to work for us, right? It's going to work against us, right? So this in the place of the past, this card is saying, yeah, the Republican or the democracy is definitely very two-faced, two-sided. It's definitely requiring you to go into a contract that you can't change later on, right? You contract with someone to be in charge of something, and that's it, and that's all, right? So we have to be careful when we want to open certain doors, because the contracts are corrupt, right? The government's becoming very corrupt, And there are a lot of things happening that we should be made aware of, but we're not made aware of. And I probably sound a little congested because I did have somewhat of a little sinus bug. So just ignore that. But the important thing to note here is that with the High Priestess, Spirit is saying we're entering into certain contracts with individuals, and we're not understanding everything that's going on. We're not using our intuition, okay? And we're also asking other people to lead us or guide us. So when their views are not aligned with ours, we still have to go along with that, right? Mostly this is for women. If you're a voter and you're very into politics, or you really take note of politics, this is a time for you to understand that maybe we need to create a balance in the in our hierarchy, in the people that are leading us, to where there's an equal amount of men and women, okay? Now, interesting, this 9 of Pentacles comes up inverted. Guys, the 9 of Pentacles, this card represents the independent woman card to me. Oh, shoot. Hold on. My phone's going off. Really. This card represents the independent woman card, right? And so, with this card being inverted, this represents you're not going to be independent of your choices. And this card is in the place of the future. So this card is representing that women are going to have to seek some sort of, like you have to get some sort of permission, okay, for you to make a decision. So I feel like Spirit is saying here, some of the states and the local governments are going to implement things like, does the father agree, right? That's going to be very important in some states. Just like custody for the mother is important in some states. Well, now there's going to be some type of equal consideration of that when it comes to abortion, right? Also, I feel like this card represents too, there won't be any money for this. So, you know how in certain places abortion could be free or you didn't have to pay that much. Well, that's really going to change. It's going to allow the medical system to charge more actual money for it. And I think insurance companies may not really, they'll implement some type of rules around that, okay? Like if you just got an abortion and something happens in your medical care, you're going to have to pay more money. So this is going to be something that is also going to be financially affecting everyone, right, who wants to seek abortion. There's going to be some type of financial ramifications for that, okay? And I think that the medical industry is definitely going to be able to capitalize on that a lot more. So that's what Spirit is saying here with this card, okay? That 9 of Pentacles. That's that independent woman card, right? But it's coming out inverted. So the money is definitely going to be an issue here. Is basically what I'm saying. So I see some type of move that's going to be made where the medical industry will be allowed to profit off of this more than anyone. So you'll probably have to go through some of their channels to get it approved. And that's going to cost you even more money, right, than just getting a regular abortion, okay? And then we have the 7 of Pentacles. This card is about reaping rewards, putting in hard work, reaping rewards. And this card is in the place of the consciousness, right? So I definitely feel like, and it's another money card. So with this card coming up, I definitely feel like Spirit is saying people are already thinking on ways to use this to capitalize on, okay? They're to where I just said they'll charge you more money. They're already thinking of these ways, people, to capitalize on that. So it's not like abortions are going to be unobtainable, but they're going to become very expensive. And it's also going to create another industry where people can be hired, okay, to seek some sort of permission for women who have been denied, right? So maybe some women qualify at the very beginning, like those women who've been violated or raped in some sort of way. But the other women have to go through a second and third process where they can be approved. That's going to create another industry for people to get jobs and get paid, okay? That's all that card is saying, ladies and gentlemen, in the place of the consciousness. Now, we're getting to the root issues here. Excuse me. We're getting to the root issues here. And one of the root issues, the Hierophant, comes up, okay? This card is saying one of the root issues is tradition or non-traditional type lifestyles, okay? Those, because this card is inverted, it's saying people will start to favor that more, okay? Favoring tradition more. And when we're talking about tradition and the Hierophant, we're talking about things like morality, right? We're talking about things like religious views, right? So it's saying like this is one of the root issues, right? Untraditional lifestyles. People being able to observe morality. I feel like this is also a card that says getting guidance, right? Because we see somewhat of the cloth on this card. So this card is about getting more guidance, okay, from moral or traditional type thinking, right? I would say because the Hierophant manifests, right, as traditional guidance. It manifests as religious guidance. It manifests as moral guidance. Spirit is saying this is one of the root issues, okay, that is affecting how Roe versus Wade will turn out for us in the future. I feel like Spirit is saying there people are going to be seeking more of a traditional stance or way of living, or seeking more religious guidance based on this, which I think is kind of weird because over the past few years since we've had the internet and more information has come out, we've begun to understand more that the belief systems are not serving us. So I feel like Spirit is saying, people are going to turn back there for help. Religious institutions will be one of the main places that people are going to go to when they're going through some type of issue, right? Where they have to revisit this decision that's been made. So when they have to face that they may need an abortion, right? Or they may need to change their lifestyle, right? So they can live a little bit more traditionally and morally. Spirit saying that is one of the root issues. Another one of the root issues here with that Eight of Wands. Remember I said I was going to explain that? That Eight of Wands, this card represents like moving too fast, right? You're going too fast. You need to calm down a little bit. Don't rush into things, right? So Spirit is saying, yeah, that's another root issue, people rushing into things. We all know what that's in reference to. Of course, that's in reference to, how we view when we use someone's body. Are we valuing that person? Are we giving the other things that we should be giving before we exchange that energy? Or are we rushing into that? Like, definitely platonic relationships are going to be very important now to women, okay? So we've had the sexual revolution, right? We've had that phase where, we've gotten to live and maybe sow some of our wild oats. But we understand that we're probably rushing a little bit too fast, and we need to stop for a minute and rethink, right, some of the things that we're doing, right? Oh, so yeah, that I was just talking about women, but this Ace of Wands specifically refers to men, because this card is always like a penis card to me. This card represents the penis. Sometimes when it comes out inverted like that in a relationship reading, like, I know that the person is probably having some issues with ED, right? So this as a root issue is spirit saying, hey, you know what I'm saying? There's going to be some implications for men. I definitely feel like once we get more women voted into office, we'll be looking at some of the things like how many children does this person have with different people, and should it be mandatory for a rapist to get a vasectomy, okay? So we're looking at big time advantages for the medical field here. We're looking at big time advantages for the psychological field. We're looking at a new industry opening, okay? So I would have to say a lot of this decision was motivated by money. There are some connections that people have in high places, and they're linked up with other people who, are like, wait a minute, we need to overturn this decision because this could make some new industries, especially, since the economy is doing so bad. So, this is going to require men to be more closely looked at, and some of their exploits are going to come into question. Okay, ladies, not all of them. But, definitely those men who are out of order, undisciplined, with giving away their energy, with giving away their male or masculine creative power. They're going to come into question. Now, let's see, we're 23 minutes in. We've got 2 cards to go. Those are some of the root issues that we're looking at. Another thing that I feel is going to happen with that Ace of Wands is that it will be a lot easier for women who've already had a specific amount of births, live births, and depending on if they're married or not, okay? So I think people who are married and different things like that, if they go out to seek an abortion, which they do sometimes too, they're going to have a harder time getting that permission or that approval in their favor, okay? And then I see the Ace of Cups here, the Ace of Cups. This card is inverted, right? And so when we're talking about the aces, aces are like the top dogs, right? But when they're inverted, they're way on the bottom. Sometimes this is a card of repressed emotions. It represents someone crying a lot. Or it represents divorce, separation. The other way around, it represents marriage, right? But it's inverted. So remember I just said what I said about married couples, right? If they have any issue, right? They're going to basically have a harder time being able to get an abortion, even if both parties agree and seek it, just based on the fact of them being married. So I do also feel like this is going to have an effect on marriage. And this card is in the place of hopes and fears. So you would hope, that a pregnancy or a new addition to family would be something good. But in fact, this could later tear apart marriages, okay? And cause issues and problems between couples that could separate them, right? So this isn't a card to new opportunities and open roads. In fact, this is a card of zero opportunities, closed doors, and they all represent emotional turmoil, right? That's why it's a Cups card, Ace of Cups. And then we have this King of Wands inverted. This is an outcome card. So we had the Nine of Pentacles, which was the independent woman's card for the outcome. And now in the place of the future, we've got this King of Wands. This King of Wands inverted, ladies and gentlemen. The King of Wands is usually very, very logical as a person who's in charge and in command of himself. And the King of Wands is a very fiery individual, especially inverted, because this represents the negative traits of the King of Wands, which means he definitely comes off as more of a bully or a tyrant. And also, the King of Wands inverted tends to be very illogical. So his decisions doesn't make much sense. And also, with his decisions not making much sense, any little thing can set him off, right? I feel like Spirit is saying this represents the men who are going to be affected by this law. I do know that some men are against it. There are situations where definitely there are manipulations, infidelities, and whatnot, where women are actually the ones who are saying, I've got to do this because if I let this out, then I possibly could ruin my future, right? This happens to very young women as well. So I feel like Spirit is saying this is going to be the other side of the coin, because there are some men who would opt for an abortion as something very logical for themselves. But they're going to have to also understand that they will need to seek some sort of permission, right? And this would out them too as well. I definitely feel like this is saying, this is going to really affect men, because we already have men who definitely are not thinking about, should I ejaculate in this person? Am I ready for this? And they're already affected, because once you do that, the choice is no longer yours, but the choice belongs to women, right? So now, men are even more at a disadvantage, right? So they would have to become more controlling, right? I would say controlling with their own body, possibly semen retention, and thinking twice before that. Not only do they not have a decision about what happens after they plant seed, but they don't have any say-so over what happens in the case of an abortion in some places now. So you can't just give someone $500 and be like, here, go get an abortion. No, there's a whole process that's going to be involved in getting that approved and getting permission for that, right? So I think this says even men don't have any authority in what's being said when they impregnate with someone. Okay? So they still don't have any authority, right? They can be somewhat of a tyrant or a bully as far as, ordering you around per se. But there's higher authority now that has to be sought. And so they can't just blame it on, per se, a woman anymore. I'm not saying a lot of men are doing that, but I know that some are. So if they tell her to get an abortion and she comes back and says, I was denied, I mean, they don't have any say-so now. Not even if they have the money, right? So this was a pretty interesting spread, especially when we started with that Two of Pentacles, right? That Two of Pentacles coming up. And then the leadership card. And then that was followed by the contracts card. And then the woman loses the independence. And then people are working or trying to build industry, from this decision as we speak. Also, the 3 root issues, which is moral and religious guidance, moving too fast, and then also considering some males who participate in, creating an issue where this is concerned, even some of their rights being looked at and taken away. And we also looked at, which I think is this is the major energy in the spread, which is the High Priestess. So I think this also represents some sort of balance between male and female leadership, okay? Like we don't have that, and we need to look at that. We need to take lock and stock of that a little bit more as women when we're voting, okay? So that was what Spirit was saying when we consider and look at how the repelling of that decision from Roe versus Wade, how that's going to affect us now and in the future. Spirit is giving us a 360-degree view of what it is we can expect, right? As an outcome, as well as the future, and some of the hopes and the fears that we have about this decision, even with the Ace of Cups, how it could, affect some married people by things getting out in the open, and also by, married people themselves wanting to seek this as an option and being denied just based on the fact that they're married. I tell you, this whole little deal we got going over here in America, it's like very inverted, okay? It is very corrupt, because the very things that we consider to be valuable to us have been turned into a farce, right? Or it's been turned into a mockery in some way. So I think that's what Spirit is kind of saying through this whole spread. Like, this whole little decision thing is like a mockery, right? It's a mockery. And we have to look at it symbolically as a mockery, because it's kind of like the rights are being mocked, right? And then my personal feeling about abortion is there are so many kids here that we're not protecting. Like, the law doesn't even take people who violate children sexually, they get off with the slap on the wrist. So if we can't protect the kids that are already here, to me, it just seemed like that's going to build more of an industry, right? Because we'll need more organizations for children. We'll need children to get more counseling and stuff. Because all of these kids who are coming here, if their parents don't want them, they're going to be so many more times likely to experience some sort of neglect, some sort of abuse, right? And what I want to say about this card, finally, this Ace of Wands, I definitely feel like Spirit is saying this is going to be a problem with sex trafficking, right? Because now if a mother doesn't want a kid, they can probably sell them right into the industry, okay? So I'm going to close out with that final thought. It's something for us to think about. And it doesn't have anything to do with whether you want to see babies die or not. But it does make us think, like, how is it that we're actually supporting families, right? When we've got all of this stuff going on. And people are not prepared for that to become more of an industry in the underworld, more importantly than here, because the social workers and the foster care agencies, they're already bombarded with cases. Like, they don't have enough workers to oversee those things, right? And we already know that there are some foster homes and whatnot where children go to, and they're even less protected than they probably would be with their real parents. So what's the point of that? And so when we look at the underworld, I feel like that opens up the crack for babies to be sold, like, right from their mother's wombs into sex trafficking, okay? I think that's going to be one of the biggest problems that we have, because that's already a big problem, but we're going to see a whole new industry built up around that in the underworld as well as among society. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think in the comment section, what you think about this reading, and add to it if you have any insights of your own. Thanks for watching.